Beaten, battered, and betrayed, John 117 leads the Spartans on a suicide mission to find the Halo and save humanity. But at what price? This is the Campfire Gaming Podcast reviews Halo the TV series Episode 9, Transcendence. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast reviews Halo the TV series. My name is Rich and I will be your host for this, the final episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast reviews the Halo TV series. With me, of course, is Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Going pretty good. Kind of happy we're at the end here.
Yes. And how's it going, Heather? She is also here as well.
Doing well.
Alrighty.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. Thank you for jumping on board with us. I know that this has been kind of a long road that we've been journeying on together. But yes, the series, well, the season has finally come to a close. And I think that kind of speaks volumes that we're all really just breathing a sigh of relief that the series or the season has ended. Wouldn't you agree? That seems like kind of a bad thing to kind of go off on.
Yeah, I've said this off air. Like, I love doing this with you guys, but I wish it was better. I wish all this was happy. And I also want to mention, like, I don't want to take, obviously we do a lot of kind of nitpicking and complaining and stuff, but I do want to throw it out there to any listeners that are enjoying this show. Like, hey, we're not trying to take that from you. This is obviously just our hot takes on this, but yeah, I definitely am definitely happy it's kind of over. And yeah, hopefully we can have Heather back on some more exciting stuff where we're all excited to chat about it,
right?
Unlike the Halo TV show. So,
right.
But we do appreciate you joining. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, we've been loving it having you on with us, Heather. So before we get into anything further, I do want to point out if you are new to this review, we are going in depth into some spoiler territory. So since we're going to be wrapping up the whole season, we're going to be basically spoiling the entirety of the season. So we'll probably be mentioning a whole bunch of plot points and things like that throughout what we saw. Just wanted to call that out there. So Before we get into that, though, be sure to follow us on Twitter at CampGamePod. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe if you're coming from YouTube. Be sure to visit our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com. There you'll find all sorts of episodes for our mainline series, the Campfire Gaming Podcast proper, where we cover all sorts of topics relating to video game news, reviews, and all sorts of related interests. So let's just dive into it. This is Transcendence, the final episode of the season 1, and it's basically kicks off right where we left off with last week's episode. So we had, John was getting into a brawl with the other Spartans, and we saw that he has been, basically betrayed. Well, more or less betrayed by Makee, and she yeets out with the artifact and fries a Marine along the way and all that good stuff. That's kind of where we kick it off.
I love the diversity of the acting that the artifact can do. So it's like earlier in the season we got this high pitched like whistle, and then this last episode it was like it fried people and there was an explosion, and then as we'll get into it later, it can also blow out a bunch of wind. So it's really diverse character in this show. So
that's true. Yeah, the artifact does blow out a fart at the end of the episode, and it is quite colossal.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, that is weird that the artifact does have some weird like power up, because like when they first encounter it in episode 1, when Chief touches it, it doesn't really do anything to anybody else. Like, it really doesn't have much of an effect even. Maybe it's because both pieces of the artifact have been kind of combined. Well, no, they haven't.
Not yet, yeah.
No, they haven't, yeah, because the Covenant have one of them. But yeah, it's so bizarre that it does seem to like be powering up in a sense anytime either Makee or Chief touches it.
Yeah. I just don't get like I don't, and it's fine that there's some mystery there, at least for the artifact, but it is just the crazy range of things it's done this season where it's just, well, let me kind of pull Johnny Rings into some little trancy thing, and then he remembers his past, and then another episode, like I said, we're getting this explosion, and then this episode we're getting this weird like it's windy enough to blow a bunch of enemies off a cliff, but not everybody. Yeah, it's just I'm more curious, like how like it's I don't know, it's just weird. I'm just curious of how it has all these different abilities. Not saying it can't have more than one, but it's just odd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You're
kind of.
just overthinking it. It's
I know,
just a
right?
space rock. It's
Space
a
rock.
magic space rock. That's all you need to know.
It has the ability to, it has the ability to give you back some memories. It has the ability to teleport you to Halo. It has the ability to, burn a marine alive into ashes.
It's teleporting your consciousness to Halo. Like their bodies are still there.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So, like it can't. It's kind of your discount teleport, you know?
Right. You're like astral projected
Exactly.
over to the Halo ring, which we've
Yeah.
only seen very small glimpses of. I'm actually a little bit disappointed, all right? Because when we first started watching this series, we kind of made some predictions on how this was going to end, and we were all expecting that this was going to lead up to the fall of Reach, right? That they spend a lot of time on Reach. They kind of built up that Makee is kind of like this sort of Covenant spy who's going to infiltrate the UNSC and do something. I mean, really, her goal was to kill Chief, get the artifact. That was her mission, effectively.
Yep.
I don't know why they couldn't have just invaded and taken it themselves, because they clearly had the superior force last time, but apparently they didn't want to do that. But I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get the fall of Reach this season. That's not how the season ended.
We made the prediction too that fall of Reach and that it would kind of end off at the Halo, right?
Right.
And all we got was, again, for all we know, the Halo is just kind of like some other plane or the Matrix, something like, dimension. For all we know, it might not even be a physical object. I don't know. It was just we never got to Halo other than in this weird, when Makee and Chief touched the rocks, they kind of were teleported somewhere. But yeah, we didn't get the fall of Reach. Who knows? I mean, Silver Timeline, right? Who knows if that's even going to happen?
Yeah, we just ended up with a lot more drama between Halsey and Keyes and Parangoski and a bunch of other characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that. I was way off. We got less than I thought we were going to.
Yeah. No, it definitely kind of threw me. I thought that was going to be the, again, kind of set us up in theory, potentially, to be a little excited about season 2, right? Hey, we're finally getting to Halo, and or getting like the fall of Reach. We're getting there. We're getting to more into the game story, but
right, yeah. And there's maybe we'll get to this towards the end, but there was one massive gripe that I have with this whole situation that they ended up in towards the end of the episode. We'll get into that.
One.
Yeah,
I'm impressed there's only one.
There was one major one, and this has been called out by like every YouTuber. Yeah, everyone has called this out. But yeah, we'll get to that. But I think that was my only honestly though, I think that was my only massive gripe with the episode. I mean, if depending on how you feel about the series, this episode felt like it was really just on par with the rest of the series. I mean, there was one really good action sequence towards the end, and that was kind of fun. But the rest of it was more of the same, right? It was a lot of drama. It was a lot of trying to scheming and plotting and silly conveniences and a lot of goofy things happening. And
we're talking about, so yeah, there was a lot of plots. So like we said, this picked up from the end of last week's episode, and there's that whole Makee's grabbed the artifact and is escaping magically and luckily to the ghost. No, not the ghost. The not the spirit. What fit? What the
Phantom?
Phantom. I'm working down my list there. Luckily that was there, but like, we had those scenes where I think it was Vanek and Riz had guns pointed at Kai's head, and Chief is trying to convince them that, like, hey, you were kidnapped. And again, the thing that bugs me, and I've said this before, is this insane agenda that 343 has of completely just making Halsey, again, not to defend her kidnapping kids and, augmenting them to be super soldiers, but like just making her into like somebody that's worse than the devil, right? Worse than this person, this evil person in history or whatever, right? And the thing that threw me is when they're all kind of having their little standoff there, and Chief is trying to plead with them, hey guys, you were kidnapped, Halsey lied to us. Keys walks in, he's like, yo bros, we kidnapped y'all and we brainwashed you, and I'm sorry. And they're all like, oh cool, Keys,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we're okay with you, but screw Halsey, let's go murder that bitch.
Yeah. Hey, you know what, Captain Keys? You're cool, but fuck you, Halsey. You know what?
Yeah.
Let's go kill this bitch.
Yep. Oh god. So yeah, that kind of bugged me.
Yeah. And she was plotting her escape too. She was ordered off the planet, which
Yep.
it looked like she was kind of complying with, just not in UNSC's terms. Because like they never really described where she was gonna go or what they were gonna do with her. All they were gonna do was that they were gonna send her away, and she was kind of being sent away. But I guess they decided to turn around on that and then decide to maybe arrest her for whatever reason. Because
Well, that
now
was
it's
the whole
even though Parangoski knew about all the stuff that she had done, like as far as I know, she knew about all the stuff that had happened and all that. But
Yeah, but the thing that we're forgetting is that, she is the scapegoat for everything that's going wrong.
Mhm.
Because the thing that they're building up with this turmoil is like, oh, well, this, we've been talking about it forever. Like, there's always, in every scene, there's a conflict. We can't not have a conflict.
Yep.
Well, in like these diplomatic and in these like military settings, like you need a scapegoat. And so they've already decided that Halsey's the scapegoat.
Mhm.
So like that's kind of why they're arresting her, right? Is because she's the scapegoat, even though Parangoski knew it, even though she didn't
Yeah.
act alone, she's the scapegoat.
Mhm. And because too, in the way kind of the episode and them trying to shoot down the ship and keep her from leaving is because at the end of the last episode, she ordered her Spartans to grab Chief, Maquis, and the artifact, right? And they were going to make a run for it. Um, so I think that was a big reason. But yeah, you're right. She's the scapegoat for all this stuff, at least for the UNSC side. Again, to me, I imagine since John was ready to, like super punch Halsey a couple episodes, that all the Spartans would be just mad at anybody that was part of the whole Spartan program that kidnapped him and tried to brainwash him or whatever. So, but again, who knows? I'm thinking too hard on this.
yes, yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that we learned from watching this series, you can't think too hard about anything that's going on in this show.
Yep.
Actually,
Because
gonna
it is
stop you earlier. You can't think while watching this show.
Yeah.
That's also fair. You can't really think while watching the show because the moment you start, everything just starts falling apart. Like,
Mhm.
I know Pablo Schreiber is doing his best to try and defend the writing, but I'm sorry, man. Like, there is so much garbage that has been happening with this show in terms of writing that it gets so hard to ignore. And I really
Yeah.
wish that you just had more action scenes so it would make it much easier to forget that the show has really crappy writing.
Yeah. It's a little easier to turn your brain off when the action sheets
Right.
scenes
When
show up.
Master Chief has his helmet on and he's killing Covenant people. Yeah, that's great.
Wait a minute, there's Covenant people?
There's Covenant people.
What the heck? I didn't even know
Yes.
the Covenant were a thing in this show.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. The biggest antagonist that this universe has is Dr. Halsey. It's not the Covenant.
Yeah. It really is. I mean, they tried to paint it a little bit more at the end of like, oh, the Covenant are bad and stuff, but I mean, clearly
It's like they remembered the Covenant were a thing that they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
put
Yeah,
in
we
this.
got that a little bit last episode too, where they were showing the news broadcasts of like all
Yeah.
these like this different planet that got glassed, and they're like, "Oh man, no, that sucks." But you know what? We got to get this Halsey bitch.
And it's relevant, and I'm going to spoil it now unless you want me to hold off. So speak now, forever hold your peace. The fact that we're supposed to care now in this episode, and we got the little tease last episode about Covenant, and they're so bad. I don't even know if people in the show know they're the bad guys, because we had a scene at the very end of the episode where the three prophets are hanging out there, and all four Spartans had a chance to kill them. So to me, I'm not even convinced the people in the show know who the bad guys are and that they're a big threat, and
No.
that we could have just chopped off the head of the Covenant right there, and
Right.
we just blew that. So
You know what? Well, all right, let's crack that open.
yeah,
That is my one giant gripe with this episode, is that yes, there is, towards the end of the episode, they end up going to basically a Covenant controlled planet. And that's where Maquis takes the rest of the artifact. They combine the artifact, all that good stuff. On this planet, the three prophets are there. So the three prophets plus Maquis are all in the same location while the four Spartans arrive.
yep,
And so they go through this great action sequence. They're fighting elites, grunts, brutes, jackals, like the whole 9 yards. It's pretty sweet. At some point, they end up not too far underneath where the prophets are, and the prophets don't go anywhere. They're literally just sitting in their chairs, kind of floating above the structure that everybody
mm-hmm.
is fighting in. And towards the end of the fighting, all that happens is that Master Chief just kind of hoists up the rest of the artifact and carries it aboard the ship that's parked outside. And then all the Spartans just kind of load up into the ship and they fly away. And that, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, what in God's name are you doing?
Yeah.
You literally have the three heads of the Covenant sitting behind you in plain view. It's not like they're hidden. It's not like they're, trying to run away or anything. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
like they're being pressured to not go kill them. They're just sitting there. That's the Covenant leadership just sitting right
Yep.
there. And the four most prominent military assets of the UNSC don't just turn and kill the heads of the Covenant. No, they got to collect the artifact so that they can get to the Halo ring so the Covenant don't get the Halo ring. It's like, holy shit, there's bad writing and there is just like colossal fuck ups with this series. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand how you can go through that. And they just, like, they literally must have just been okaying literally anything that they're putting on paper. Like, there's hardly
Yeah.
any, like, I don't know how this show ended up going through so many revisions, and this was the show that they crapped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is
Can you
such,
imagine the first run at this?
I don't know.
What
Yeah, I don't
what
know.
if it
Like,
was better?
what if
It
it
was
was
better?
actually good, but they decided to scrap it because they
Yeah.
wanted, like, a more diverse cast, or they wanted, to emphasize more of the character development of the Master Chief or something, something along those lines. And it's like,
We need to
oh my
dissect the
god.
chief.
Yeah, like it's just, oh my god, like,
Is he human? Is Chief human?
yeah, it's just like it makes absolutely no sense that this is like third grader tier writing, that they would just be in that situation when, like, the camera and like the whole audience can see that, yeah, the prophets are
Yep.
just right there, and literally Master Chief is going on this killing spree of a whole bunch of Covenant, and like he's killing brutes and grunts and everybody's got two plasma pistols at one point, and he's doing some gun kata in the sanctum there, and not once does he even look up and be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I should kill those things too because they're really bad. So they
And
must like they must not know who the Covenant leadership is, which makes me think that, yeah, the Covenant are not actually the enemies of the UNSC. They probably don't even care that much.
Halsey. Halsey's the one they gotta get.
Yeah, they
Halsey
can't even
is the
get her, and
Covenant.
she's on their planet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it was. And there's no way they didn't know those people were there. The prophets were there. It's just, so yeah, it really just has to be that it was in just the writing, it was the Spartans are just too dumb to just notice or recognize and hope the audience doesn't. No, or like literally the UNSC doesn't know who leads the Covenant. I mean, it's one or the other. I don't know, but even then, you'd think that that, I mean, because John and some of the other Spartans kill, grunts and stuff, and brutes and some elites in that area. Like, you'd think, like, well, there's some people that aren't us, let's kill them too, right? Like,
Right,
nope. Yeah.
especially when they land on that planet and the first thing that happens is that Kai is sitting there sniping a bunch of grunts
Mm-hmm.
with the most quiet sniper rifle
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
That's what I loved. We were trying to figure out if she had like a silencer on there or something. Like,
Something.
'cause
Yeah.
they just forgot to load the audio for it. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've complained about the audio and music and sound effects and all that fun already, but like the gun sounds in this show were pretty rough, and that was like, that was one of those where she's just like fires a couple shots, and I'm like, again, gotta empty my brain, or just, this is Silver Timeline, because damn, that was real quiet. What's she doing? Shooting a 22 with a silencer on the end? I don't know. It's like flap flap.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay,
really big
cool.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all that, and they don't notice that there's three really big alien dudes sitting in chairs with really like fancy vestments on them, and they don't think they must be important.
And
No,
they're around the artifact, so yeah, they got to be
Yeah.
important.
And yeah,
they
and
they flew way up in the air. The Spartans can't reach them.
they can't. Yeah, they flew
look.
too high. You can't shoot
Yep.
that far. The bullets don't go that far.
Nope, they don't
Yeah.
go that far.
Oh,
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. That was my one like just big WTF moment. That it was just like, how unbelievably annoying is this that the show
Mhm.
ends on this kind of a note. I mean, like, there's stuff that I don't like about this episode too, and I mean, like, while the fight scene was pretty good on this planet, I don't remember what the planet was called, I'm not gonna lie, but they had like a cool looking like ruins, like it looked like a Halo map, which was kind of
Yeah.
cool. Like, it did look like a multiplayer map.
If they were smart and they had tie-in stuff to Halo Infinite from the Halo TV show, I could see that being a map, right? Obviously, they'd probably have
Yeah.
to gamify it a little bit, but they could have been
Yeah.
like, here's a cool map from the TV show. It's where but
Honestly, like, that would have been super super cool. Like,
mhm.
forget for a minute that Halo Infinite is in the state that it is. But yeah, like, they had like so little tie-ins to the TV series, and what a wasted opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Especially when they just dropped like a seasonal update not too long ago, like a couple of weeks ago. They dropped a seasonal update, and yeah, like, they didn't feature any of the, like, that would have been cool if they would have featured some of the locations from, the Silver Timeline or something like that as
Yeah,
maps.
the armor. They could have even gone silly and done like Kai, Vanek, or Riz as the AI. Maybe your AI companion voices, or how I might even go back and play some Halo Infinite if I could get some Vanek AI in there. That'd be so
Enemy
sick.
team's got your flag.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd
That
be
would have been
pretty cool.
sick.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
What a wasted opportunity. So, I mean, there was one weird implication with the end of this, with the end of the series too, or with the end of the season. So at the end of the episode, they're getting beat. Basically, the Spartans are losing to all these Covenant. Like, it's kind of crazy because, like, I don't know where all these Covenant even came from, but like,
from the planet below, the caves below, or whatever it was.
They made this big alert, and you see all these elites just start like swarming up the mountain, like it's like World War Z or something like that.
Yeah.
They just start climbing up the mountain, and it's like, yeah, it's just a big swarm of them, and so they're trying to fight off all these dudes. They're losing, and then Master Chief decides that it has to be Cortana that takes over his body because she's the only one that can save the Spartans and get them out and get the artifact out at the same time, I guess. And the only way they can do that is if Cortana takes over Chief's body, which is what they alluded to last episode, that she was planning on doing that. And then she does, yeah. Jimmy Rings decides to face up against to square up against a brute with a gravity hammer, and he just takes it right to his face, and he falls over and quote dies. And then Cortana takes up Shino's gun kata, so she's blasting everybody and not the prophets. And
That's
But the other thing that makes that so unsatisfying is like he just walks out
Mhm.
screaming to Cortana. Like he doesn't even try to fight. He doesn't like try to do anything. He's just like, "No, you got to take over." And she's like, "I don't want to." And he's like, "Nope, you've got to." And he just basically gives up because that's
Yeah.
the Master Chief we all know and love.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that bugged me too. I mean, well, again, in general, the Spartans actually, I know it kind of looked, you turn your brain off, the fight looked cool, but there was actually a lot of things that bugged me about it. But like the fact that, yeah, all the Spartans were down for some reason, you know, and they were all functional to sit there and like stare at Chief while he's standing up after
Right.
Cortana takes over and just sitting there in shock and all like, oh, like this is supposed to be that epic moment or whatever. But I'm sitting there again, silver timeline, got to turn my brain off, but like these Spartans were augmented for a reason and trained for a reason, and that was that they would get their asses kicked all day but still be able to stand up at the end and return the favor. And what was it, granted, I guess Riz got hit by a non-glowing, so it was an activated plasma grenade that blew up, which again should have probably blown off, well, probably should have killed her since she was stuck, right? But really only just broke a little bit of her armor. Riz or Kai, I
No,
don't
it
remember what
it
downed
did more
her.
than that. It did more than that. She was dying. That was that scene where like they get her in
Yeah,
and she's got like her flesh out and they're talking about how like when they're like burning her flesh so that it heals and is cauterized so she doesn't
yeah.
die. I mean,
But
she is dying.
she should have been dead or lost an arm or something, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. It was.
Mhm.
I'm
She did get
nitpicking at this
stuck with a
point.
sticky, and that does mean instant death, unless she had overshield.
She had plot
She must
armor,
have. Yeah,
so.
she must. She had Kai's overshield.
But again, all the Spartans get knocked down, and they're just, again, it's just me unsatisfied with the way they're portraying these Spartans. That all season it's their badasses, they're badasses. And we see some spurts of badassery, but like at the end, it's
Very little, yeah.
like, oh, they just get a little like knocked around, and then it's like, oh no, we're can't fight anymore. Again, Riz
Right.
has a little bit of an excuse because she took a non-activated plasma grenade to the. So I'm gonna nitpick that. It wasn't glowing at all. Like
Yeah,
seriously,
it just looked like a ball that just sticks to her head.
yeah, it was the same thing whenever Quan did it in episode 7 where she stuck somebody. It was just nothing. It's stuck. It's not the plasma grenade from the games. Let's just say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
They can't afford to do that. They spent
yep.
too much on the CG of the chairs.
Yeah. Oh God.
The profit budget.
The
Yeah.
profit budget.
Yeah. But no, I did want to point this out. I just, that whole scene of all the elites running up the hill too. I know I kind of joked about it a little bit already, and you pointed out how goofy it was, but the scene is long enough where you think they would have been swarmed already, all the Spartans, right? But even at the end of the scene where John and Johnny Rings and Cortana are having their little conversation, and he just, right, they're all still running. And I made this joke while we were watching it. It's like the scene from Monty Python with Sir Lancelot when those guards are just watching him run. You just constantly, in a lot of different, the different scenes as they're kind of in the shots as they're shooting this last part of the episode, you're constantly seeing these elites run, but they never get anywhere. They're just
Right.
constantly running.
Or
And it's,
did you ever see Kung Pao enter the fist?
yeah.
Where she's like, chosen one, and he's like, I'm coming, and then he like starts off like even farther back in the next
Yep.
shot, and then he's like forward and then farther back.
Yeah. And it was, again,
Yeah, it
it's
was
just,
like that.
it's just again, poor writing, poor shooting, I don't know, whatever,
Yeah.
but it was goofy and
Yes.
it bothered me.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was kind of like, yeah, like I said, there's so many conveniences with the writing in this series, and yeah,
Mhm.
it's another one of those like, just don't think about it, don't think
Mhm.
about it too hard.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was really funny when. So the other big key point that happens during the scene is that at some point the Spartans reach where the artifact is, and then Maquis touches the artifact. And then when
Yep.
she touches the artifact, she and John basically get, astral projected back to the Halo ring, and they're hanging out and they're just chit-chatting a little bit. But when she does that, it was hilarious, and we all had a really good laugh when this happened. Is that she touches it and it blasts out like a massive shockwave, and then there's this really funny shot, a side view of the entire cliff, and you just see all these elites just get blown off the side of the
Yep.
mountain, and it was just such a funny thing to see. Like I couldn't take it seriously because I thought it was hilarious looking.
Yeah.
That like the artifact basically just let out like a massive fart and just like blew all
Yep.
of those elites off the mountain.
hmm And I guess here I'll lead into another thing I did want to point out. Again, it turn your brain off. The scene was fun, but I think the thing that bugged me about this fight scene compared to the other two we got this season was, again, it just goes broken record here, just bad writing type thing. But whenever she touches it, she does her little gets, teleported to Halo, mentally, or Matrix, or whatever it is. And then Chief kind of he does too, but he kind of walks over towards the artifact and kneels down, wide open, right? And the thing that bugged me in multiple shots in this last scene was that one. Whenever Chief is fighting a lot of the brutes, because there's 3 or 4 he's fighting at a time, there's it felt very, and I love this series, but I'm gonna knock on a little bit. It felt very like Batman Arkham, Asylum, or Arkham City, or whatever, right? Where the bad guys all wait their turn to take a shot at you, and right, it's like, oh well, here's Chief just kneeling down, and all these people that are around. Let's just wait. I mean, what did I don't know if it's really Atriox, but I'm calling him Atriox, the main brute dude at the end. Like, what was he doing this whole time? Just standing outside watching all this happen? Right? You're
Yeah,
like,
I think so. Yeah.
right? Like all these bad guys were just, well, it's not my scene yet, so I'm just gonna stand here and wait till it's my shot to go one on one with, right? So while Chief is kneeling down here and doing his stuff with Maquis in the Halo Matrix, like nobody's shooting at him. Everybody's just, and it's funny because at this point I think the Spartans were still kind of up and shooting back, and they're like, Chief, get up, because they realize, hey, dumbass, we're in an active firefight, right? What are you doing?
I also don't get
That
why he had to kneel.
because
Like he's never done that before.
I don't know. I don't know,
Because it
man.
looks cool.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
typically what happens is that when somebody touches like one of the artifacts, they just kind of go into O face and then like they fall over.
Oh. God,
Yeah,
every time that happens, I just remember Office Space. But anyway,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah. So, anyways, long-winded, just me bitching there. But yeah, they get teleported to the Halo thing, and it was just, I guess, but Maquis not coming back next season.
Oh, yeah. We don't
Maybe.
know. We don't know. So the Covenant were planning on getting rid of her as soon as they made it their way to the Halo ring because she's human. Like that was
Mm-hmm.
probably the like if there's one thing that they got pretty right about the show, it was the prophets. That was like the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that I think that they actually got correct, both in like
Yeah.
visual look and feel and how they act and their goals and things like that. That was probably the most accurate thing to Halo, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So they were ready to dispose of her, and then yeah, they're Maquis and Jimmy Rings are sitting on Halo, and all of a sudden she starts bleeding out of her stomach, and it turns out that Kai just decided to pop one shot in Maquis, and then she falls down and looks like she's dead, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's the end of Maquis. We think
Maybe.
to be determined. Yeah,
This show has a lot of convenient deaths in that sense too, where like, just as we were talking about like the Quan Ha episode, like they just conveniently just got rid of the bad guy. They
Mm-hmm.
conveniently get rid of, Maquis. They conveniently like tie up all these plot lines and make
yeah,
them basically irrelevant that they happen this entire season.
Yeah.
yeah. I know.
Circle.
They wrap up a bunch of the garbage that they set up in the very first half of the season, where it was kind of like, man, this season felt like a real big waste of time. Like it feels like you could have just jumped this entire season and not done any of this.
Yep.
I swear, whoever it was on Reddit, props to you. The way they need to start season 2, like I said, I think it was last episode or the previous one, was
Is
we
that
get
the
that whole
dream?
opening scene on the Pillar of Autumn where Chief's coming out of cryo sleep, and it's
Yeah.
like, hey Chief, like, get up, and he's just like, and Chief is just like, man, that was a weird dream, and then we actually get into real good Halo story. But I think that's the only way to save it at this point.
And it was a dream the entire
Yeah,
time.
but yeah, no,
Yes.
it's going to be interesting to see, because I think that with Maquis dying, air quotes over here, who knows, if she might have plot armor and come back in a weird way. But this also puts, as we find a little bit out of this whole great journey and all this stuff, is when she did touch it, a star map started, apparently was kind of loading, right? You see some of it, but it was still continuing to load as everything was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when Maquis was shot, it brought Chief and her out of the Matrix, and then the star map started going away, and the prophets do make, I don't remember how exactly they say it, but kind of like, hey, it's incomplete, which now puts them in an interesting scenario of, if Maquis is dead, now they need a way to either find another blessed one. I don't know how many there are in the galaxy. We at least know there's two, right?
Well,
And
one
then,
now.
yeah, well, one, yeah, potentially one, which now puts them in an interesting situation where they now need to capture Chief alive. Which, I don't know, maybe that's what they're trying to, maybe that'll be a future episode or season or something where Chief is captured, and I don't know, but
He's
yeah,
so stupid.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it puts them into that an interesting scenario. The prophets into an interesting scenario here. So
Yes. On this planet, they do not have good internet connections, so they weren't able to download all of the map.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Again, it was just.
So
I
here's
don't.
here's the other big, I guess here's a weird thing that I've that they're implying as well, is that once Cortana takes over John's body, she tells John that she doesn't know if she's going to be able to bring him back.
Yeah,
So she takes over his body, and it's kind of implied that either it's still Cortana in there when they get on board their little ship and they're flying away from the Covenant planet, or he's really messed up because he's basically a zombified Jimmy Rings now.
I think
So
it's the first one, because that's the whole piece where, you know, Master Chief grabs the ring and nothing happens, and then Kai's like, "Oh, what the
yeah.
heck?
Mm-hmm.
That's not Chief." Like, she's got that look like, "I'm on to you. You're not Chief."
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, and that's the when we finally see Chief keep his helmet on is when Cortana's playing Weekend at Jimmy's.
Yeah. No, it's definitely going to be interesting. Honestly, at this point, just I want it's already we already have our complaints and stuff, but at this point, let's just lean into it. Let's just it's just zombie Chief. Cortana's controlling him, and like, yeah, I'm all for it. I'm like, don't ever bring Johnny Rings back. Let's just have it.
Yeah,
You know,
he'll keep his helmet on. Everything will be good.
yeah, and Spartan Cortana. The thing that I'm afraid here is what they're setting up is some stupid uh um best I can compare it to, I guess, off the top of my head, was it Moon Knight, where they'll essentially, in Moon Knight, main character had a little some could flip between some goofy nerdy dude and a badass dude, and I feel like that's probably what's gonna happen here is whenever it needs to be Spartan Master Chief, oh, let's turn on Cortana, now it's just going to be badass fighting, and oh well, we're done fighting, let's go back to stupid Johnny Rings, and she lets him come back, and yeah, I just have a feeling that's where they're going with this, which will be goofy as hell,
Yeah,
but
I'm not really looking forward to that if that's what's gonna happen.
yeah, it's
So the B plot of this was stuff with Dr. Halsey.
God,
And it was
yeah.
also not very interesting. The only good part is that her assistant gets killed. Like, really killed, too.
We think maybe Rape Doctor has a Flash
A
spoiler.
Flash clone too.
I know we've already said spoiler, but like, what if Rape Doctor has a Flash clone? So yeah,
It
so
could
we have
be.
this B plot is, I guess what we should say is the start of the episode was, like we said, they were all figuring out that they were all kidnapped, and then most of them all go off to the what we just talked about with the prophets and the weird alien planet. But Kai goes off initially before they head to the Covenant place, and she goes after Halsey, which was goofy, because it was like, because the whole lose the artifact, lose the war line, right? And she's like, yeah, well, fuck that. I hate Halsey. I'd rather go, get some revenge than potentially
Time to
save the
choke her
universe.
out.
Yeah. But yeah, she runs and I like, again, it's just the goofiest things where I'm pretty sure we bled into the Star Wars universe here because I think the Galactic Empire might have made Halsey's ship because a few shots for if you think about it, she does it. Halsey's trying to escape at this point, right? Maquis made her way to her escape ship on the Phantom. All the other Spartans are going off to chase her down, hopefully to get her before she runs off. And Kai goes and does this cool little run and jump on the Halsey ship as she's pulling away, and she just pops 3 shots from her 9mm into a little vent on the ship, and all of a sudden it's just exploding and on fire, and
Yeah.
they're going down. I'm like, shit, man, it's like it must be the
Seems
same
like a bit of a
engineers for the Galactic Empire. So
right. Yeah.
That
All you have
was
to do is
the
just
vent.
little.
the vent,
Yeah,
Yep.
like that. You can hit anywhere else on the ship, but if you hit that thing, it's
Yep.
over.
Mm-hmm.
it's like hitting
She
womp
sent
rats
off
with
her
the
proton torpedoes
yeah.
right into the vent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she confronts and here's what was hilarious too is she gets on board the ship, she, throws down the proton torpedoes. And then she confronts Halsey, and of course, what does she do right before confronting Halsey? She takes her helmet off.
Look,
She takes her helmet off, and this
Hey,
is so hilarious.
We
Yeah.
have to know that that's Kai, okay? We didn't know until
We didn't
she took
know
the
it was
helmet
her.
off.
I didn't know it was Kai.
She takes her helmet up only to get like smacked in the back of the head by Rape Doctor, who is like got like I don't know if he's got like a crowbar or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got something. He just hits her in the back of the head. And she just like gets all angry because he just hit her in the back of the head.
It was,
And it doesn't do anything. Just makes her angry. But
yeah. That was just, it was just that whole like, did you not just learn from, I don't know, 20 minutes earlier when you took your helmet off to try to talk to Riz and Vanek and you just got punched in the face then too? It's like, what was the joke I shared on Discord? Like
if only there was some armor that could protect the head and face.
Yeah, and it's a picture of Master Chief with his helmet off and his face is just all bloody and bruised. It's like damn, like come on.
They don't like helmets in this series, apparently.
It's just goofy, but yeah. So I mean, him doing that essentially for a little bit saved Halsey, right? Because while Kai was throwing him into the ceiling, Halsey makes her way to an escape pod.
Yep, and and her assistant also died because he got thrown into a light above their little like, I don't know, little console table or something like that.
Yeah,
She
like
just like shoves him into a light fixture above, and he didn't wear his helmet either. I bet if he wore his helmet, he'd be alive right now.
Probably.
Yep.
I mean, I'm kind of with Matt. I'm gonna guess it was a Flash clone because we already know that Halsey was a Flash clone, and I would guess that they, she complied via Flash clone, and then was planning to stay on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
except she's not though. She's not planning on staying on the planet, and that's something that we get to towards the end of the episode. Is that
I guess what I mean though is like she didn't plan to leave right at that moment. You know, she's leaving on her terms.
Right. Yeah, because she's vicious. That Halsey.
Yeah.
I do have
she does it how she wants to do it.
Yeah, I have a comment about that, but I'll make it when we get there. But yeah, so Halsey escapes in the escape pod. The ship's going down because we hit the main reactor with the proton torpedo, and it's just like, I don't know. Kai, you thought Kai might be, die with going down with the ship, which again, I mean, you had your chance. I like Kai and didn't want her to die, but it was like you kind of had your chance to add a little bit of like emotional weight to the episode, but nope, Kai gets out just fine, and then
it's because she wore her helmet.
she put it back on. So
she put her helmet back on.
Yeah,
I think we made that comment too at the time.
Yeah, we did. We were just like, oh, she lived. Yeah, because she had her helmet on.
Oh,
Yeah,
goofy.
but Halsey jettisons off an escape pod, and they do their little like. I think we compared it to The Fugitive. She had
Yep.
her little fugitive scene where she's running through the woods and she's getting chased by UNSC cops.
Oh,
They capture
it's,
her, bring her to the interrogation room. They show that Miranda Keyes is still one of the worst characters in the show and is
yep.
completely like brainless in this entire series.
I mean, I'll give her a half brainless. I mean, she did figure out that Halsey was the Flash clone. Like, she is the one that's informing them that they've been duped.
Yes. Yes, because she
Yeah.
mysteriously goes into a seizure and starts bleeding from the nose and dying and all that, and she's just like, "Wait a minute,
Yeah.
I know
you!"
It was
this.
She
just
shakes her fist. She's like, "Halsey!"
it, it was just such a weird thing too to like watch. Again, it's just that whole just trying to make Halsey out to be one of the worst, villains ever, which is funny because in this scene, I thought it made Miranda look bad when she basically went in there to gloat that her mother was getting, order
Arrested.
66, right?
Yeah, she's getting
Or
executed.
because, we can't, what was it? We can't, whatever, exile you and we can't put you in prison. You're too dangerous. So that only leaves Article 72. And she's like all happy about it. I'm like, I
I
don't
know.
like any of these characters.
She's such a child. Yeah, she's
Oh, it
basically
was
a UNSC version of Quan.
yeah, not as bad. I respect Miranda's character a little bit more than Quan. That's like
Do you respect it because it's a beloved character that existed before the show, or do you respect it because it actually has better writing?
Beloved.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, when I say beloved, I mean
in all
She was
fairness,
in the
it was an
games.
the
M-
original IP.
Yeah, I
Miranda.
guess.
Here. I'll complain about the Halo game for a minute. Halo 3. Miranda hesitated when she should have just shot herself and Sergeant Johnson, which I thought was, and then she got what was coming to her. She got a spiker. Was it the brute spiker to the back? Right.
Yep.
So she wasn't the greatest character there because she didn't have the balls to do what needed to be done. So,
Heyo.
but she was still better. So I don't know about Beloved. I did still like Miranda Keyes, but yeah.
Yeah. Least interesting character out of Halo still, in my
I
opinion.
like I said, I'm only when I say beloved is for Halo, not necessarily for Miranda.
Then yes, then she's a beloved
Yes, I guess
character.
so.
But yeah, no, it was just, but it was just so goofy. Just I mean, yeah, at least she was smart enough, like you said, to just recognize, like, oh shit, we've been duped, because it was when they brought her in, she just couldn't stop her nose bleeding, and she had a big headache. I forget she mentions that somehow Halsey does, and surprise, we kind of get that. I forget, it was a voiceover or something. I forget where they remind us, like, oh, that's a common thing for the Flash clones. They start like
Yes.
bloody noses and having headaches, and then they die, and it's like, oh
Seizure. Yeah.
Yep.
yeah. But yeah, I guess we're to the point where I'll make my this is so I have not been a huge fan of how a lot of the characters have been played compared, like, I just don't think they're good characters, whether their rank or their role, or just even if you compare them like we do all the time to the games or the books, right? This is the only time I got a small glimpse of the Halsey from the book, in my opinion. It was supposed to be this big shocking, like, oh my god. I wasn't really shocked, but the fact that the real Halsey was smart enough, probably through some dumb means or whatever, but was smart enough to put a Flash clone whenever it happened. We don't know when this little like switch over happened. It could have been all season. It could have been
That's
in the
true.
middle somewhere. We really don't know. But
That's
this is the
true.
only time where I'm like, Halsey actually outsmarted
Oh.
everybody.
Yep.
That's the Halsey I know. Like,
Yes,
that was
that's true.
it was pretty cool. And
Yep.
also a
That was clever.
small little tidbit I picked up. I don't know if you guys did. It's one of those kids are calling Easter eggs. When she was talking in her little VO at the end of the episode, and she's writing in a journal. That's actually her journal from it. If you bought well, it's a journal from Halo Reach game, and if you bought the collector's edition, you actually got a physical copy of it. So that was kind of cool too. But yeah, that was the only time in this entire season where any of the characters I went, okay, I caught that glimpse of you're okay, you're Halsey in that moment right there. That was pretty smart. You outsmarted everybody. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was clever. That was appreciated. And then yeah, that was. I think that's where the episode pretty much ends.
No Quan, so already
No
better
Quan.
episode than
Yep.
a lot of them.
It will be higher than a Quan out of 10.
Will it though?
I don't know. Should we go to ratings?
It's a Miranda out of 10.
It's
All right.
Miranda out of
Miranda
10.
out of 10.
I hear she's beloved.
All right. So let's do this. We'll rate this episode, and then we'll rate the aggregate. How's that sound?
Yep.
We'll give it like the whole first season. So we'll rate it on this episode alone, and then we'll do ratings for the entire season, and then give our final thoughts about the series so far.
Sure.
All right. Heather, you want to kick us off? What did you think of this episode?
because I have to think about this one.
All right, Matt, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Definitely had many complaints about this this episode, but it was I think some of it might just be due to the relief of it being over. I'd say it's probably a 4 out of 10. Again, I can nitpick all day, as anybody, if you've been along for the entire ride here, knows. But you turn your brain off. The end fight scene was kind of cool to see the Spartans in action. There was no Quan, and yeah, so it was probably about a 4 out of 10. Still not great, but
4 out of 10.
yeah,
All right.
better than some of the other episodes we've seen.
All right. Heather, was that enough time to stall to get you to get a rating? All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give this about I'm somewhere between like a 5 and a 6 for the episode. Mostly because, I mean, yeah, like the thing that really lost points for me was a couple of like those big gripes. Like I don't really like where they're going with how Cortana is basically mind controlling Master Chief as a zombie. I think that's really, really weird. The fact that the Covenant leadership was right in front of the Spartans and they just didn't take the opportunity to even to just acknowledge the fact that that was the Covenant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just, like, the writing was so lazy that they didn't even give them a reason why they couldn't go after them. You know what I mean? Like they just literally just ignored them.
Yep.
But the action scene was kind of cool. They did play some Halo theme in there. Like there was actual Halo music for it was brief, but it was in there while they were doing the fight scene. So that was pretty cool. And then yeah, like the Halsey kind of being clever for that brief period of time was neat. You know, like I did appreciate that. So I'm like I said, somewhere between a 5 and a 6. It was probably better than it's better than the worst episodes. Like it's way better than a Quan episode.
Yep.
And better than some of
that's
like
true.
the really, really annoyingly dramatic episodes. When he first meets Soren or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like those kinds.
Yeah.
So I'd probably give this like a 5 or a 6. Maybe I'll just say 6. Because then
Nice.
then I can say that the show is at least over.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll split the difference and just say 5 here. Similar reasons, Rich. Like, so this is what I'm trying to like figure out in my head, right? Is like we know the series is something, and we know that we don't agree with the writing and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think, like, pure entertainment value was, like you said, pretty high. We actually got some like battle scenes and stuff like that. We actually got to see the Covenant because, we finally remembered that those are actually a threat and stuff like that. But and I did enjoy the Halsey thing. I think I mentioned this when we were talking, like it, like her whole like capture scene. I was like, they can't let her go out like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, oh, she's a Flash clone. I was like, you got me. Like I was happy with that. But I do have some major gripes too. Like I mean, you guys said it well when you said things like, you've got the big Covenant guys, and you can't even, like, the 3 heads of the Covenant, you can't figure out you should probably shoot them and stuff like that. So, like, I agree with pretty much what you're saying there. I just don't know if it rates as high for me. I really dislike the whole like where what they're doing with Chief and Maki and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a chore to watch that for
Mhm.
me. So I'm gonna stick it with a 5, because yeah, it's like you said, it's better than some of the worst episodes that are there. It's definitely not my favorite episode, but I don't know. It's a little bit further away from the trash can than some of the others.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then, what did you think about the series as a whole so far? Like we're really the whole reason we were even doing this too is that like going into it, I think we talked about this a little bit on the mainline podcast. Was we were kind of nervous about going into this because from the trailers and things like that, it looked bad. Like it did not
Yeah.
look good, but it's Halo, and we got to give it the honest try. We got to at
Yeah.
least make it through the first season to make sure that we give it a fair shot. And I feel
Mm.
like we did. We did make it through all 9 episodes. We've talked about all 9 episodes in depth.
Yep.
So what do you think about the series as a whole so far? Season
Well,
1.
well, let me ask you guys this, and it might kind of help gauge on our thoughts. Uh, is this worth subscribing to? Is Halo? I know there's a lot of other content, but is Halo? Would it be a reason that you would subscribe to Paramount Plus?
If I knew how the show was currently without having to take it episode by episode, no, not paying money. Like if you
Yep.
get like a gift card or something for Paramount Plus, or like you signed up for Xbox Game Pass and you got a free month of Paramount Plus, and you're sitting with us right now and you can just burn through all 9 episodes in like a day or something like that. Whatever. Like sure, but no, I would not pay money
Yep.
to watch this series again.
Yeah. So the other thing I would add. So you bring up a good point, right? Like binging a bad series is better than having to wait week for week by the series. I will say, being not as in tune as with like the books and stuff like that, for me, it's one of those like if it was to play on TV and like I didn't have to pay a subscription for it, I'd probably watch it. It'd be one of those like I'll watch and see what's happening on in this dumpster fire,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But
Yep.
the paying it, going week by week and waiting for it to get paid, honestly, if I wasn't doing the podcast with you guys, like, and I mean I got it for free. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest, I got it for free. We
Right,
used Game
right.
Pass subs for free. We didn't pay for it. But
Thank God.
if I had to pay for it, I would seriously consider walking away, especially in some of those low parts. Possibly if I made it to like Master Chief sleeping with Maki, I probably would have been like, I'm out. I don't need this.
I saw a
You
lot of
know?
people.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people in the salt mines that were like, thanks to everybody for like posting how bad that episode in the Quan episode were. They're like, I actually skipped those episodes. I'll pick it up next week, right? Like so there are people that are like, didn't watch it the day it came out, or like, yeah, we'll just skip that episode and get back to it whenever the story picks up again. But you guys indirectly actually answered 2 questions that I was, obviously the one I asked, and then what was going to be my follow up was, the first one obviously was, would you pay Paramount Plus to watch this? The second was going to be, would you watch this for free if you get, Paramount Plus for free, or if it was on TV. And it seems like no, the answer for both of you was no, I wouldn't pay for Paramount Plus, but if I got it for free or it was just on TV and I could watch it for free, sounds like you'd give it a good old try. Which is funny because I would say no to both those questions. I don't think again, you'd have to, if I was going in blind to this like we were this season, right, and we didn't know what everybody's thoughts were on it, obviously I'd probably give it a try. But knowing now and kind of I guess
Right.
giving a little information to any listeners that might be looking to watch it, personally myself, no, it's not worth subscribing to Paramount Plus to watch it. No, it's not worth it, even if somebody gave you a login or you got a free month or something. So I mean that's me. So
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
I
I feel like
guess
if I were like trying to talk about this with like a friend or something like that, I would probably tell him like I would say it's skippable. Like, it's not good enough to where you have to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're morbidly curious, go
Yeah.
for it. But like, honestly, there's nothing really special in there that would make it worth watching.
Yeah, which was we've had
Doubly
this.
so if you're a Halo fan. If you're a
Yeah.
Halo fan, I would say you're probably just going to get pissed off.
Yep. And another question I was going to ask you guys, and we've honestly actually discussed this a lot or a few times already throughout the season, is we've obviously talked about the bad writing. We've joked about a few things, but if this didn't have Halo slapped on it, would you guys have watched it or like in its entirety? Or I'll just jump out there myself. Is let's say this was generic sci-fi, space, superhero guy, whatever show. I personally would have probably put it down the second or third episode, right? Halo and this podcast are really the only reason it kind of pulled me into this. But I was just curious if this wasn't Halo and this was just generic, which here's our jokes. It really was, right? With Halo slapped on it. But if Halo was stripped away and it was just a generic sci-fi show, would you guys have watched it in its entirety?
No. God, no.
Well, I feel like that's kind of what I just said, right? Is like being not in tune with the lore and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I'd give it a try, but knowing what I know now, I wouldn't even make it through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would, and like I said before, like this is one of those like if I didn't know anything and it's on TV, I'll be like, all right, I'll look, but I'm not gonna subscribe for it. I'm not gonna look for it. We've talked about in the other episodes that like just in this, like the writing itself is so bad. Like forget the writing of like Halo. Like we've talked about just the convenience of things, like
Mm-hmm.
how the plots kind of go in a circle until they just kind of like wrap themselves up and make me wonder why in the world I spent 3-4 episodes watching a plot line that I don't care about. Like
Yeah.
there's so many bad writing choices and so little action that I don't think I don't know many people that would sit through it. Let's put it that way.
This whole series plays out like a kind of mediocre CW drama show, more less than like some sort of like a military thriller or action TV show or something like that, or like even really heavy sci-fi. Like the sci-fi, in my opinion, in this show is kind of weak.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it is really interpersonal drama is what the show
Yeah.
really, really focuses on.
We got off planet once, right, with the humans, twice at the end of the episode here, Covenant Planet. Yeah,
we went to Madrigal, we went to Aridness, and we went we started on Reach. We had the Rubble, we had Madrigal, and we had Aridness.
Okay, that's more than 2. I'm an idiot, so it's how forgetful the show is.
Yeah, because Madrigal was all like Quan plot, and that was like the most useless plot of the entire series, so it might as well not have happened.
Aridness is where we got Chief being badass with a shovel.
Yep.
Digging a hole.
Yep.
Never thought I'd see that.
And that's where that first like major battle took place, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I would want to watch this again. Now the big question is does this get you interested in watching season 2? They've already been greenlit for a season 2. Are you interested in watching season 2?
Not really. I mean, they'd have to really. I don't even know what they could do to like get me. Like they didn't even end it off like we were saying in a good spot with the fall of Reach or them getting to the Halo. Like there's not even a good cliffhanger to be going, oh snap, like next season it's like I don't even know if they're gonna get to Halo next season, right? There could still be more of this, infighting with the Spartans and Halsey and Mama Parangosky coming in and yelling at Miranda to go clean her room and all that stuff. Right? I don't know what next season's gonna be, and I have no interest in watching it. Now, if we're still doing this podcast and we want to torture ourselves again, maybe, right?
Please God, no.
I really don't want to watch season 2. I don't watch soap operas on mainstream TV. I'm not going to pay to watch a soap opera on some
I would
crappy...
rather watch The Young and the Restless than watch this show.
100%.
I'm
I
sure it
would
has better
rather stick
writing.
my head in the oven. I just
You bitch.
no, thank you. Just
Yeah,
no, thank you. I
that's what we needed to see. It was just like, Miranda Keys just goes up to Halsey and just goes, "You bitch," and then just
no.
slaps her across the face.
See,
Yeah.
here's the thing. Season 2, Chief finds out that actually Maki is his sister. He slept with his sister. Soap opera is born. That's all you need.
Yay!
That's literally you are that literally that close to a soap opera.
Oh God.
Gross. All
Done.
right. Well, so would you want to watch season 2 then, Heather? Is that a no?
That is an absolutely positively not.
Yes, I am.
I
Unless I hear from Reddit or something that like this show is absolutely mind blowing, it's a skip. It's
I
not worth it.
Hmm.
I don't even know if that can bring me back, honestly. Like the unless okay, maybe if they save it with the oh what a weird dream and then the
Yeah.
writing gets monumentally better because like the writing is bad. Like forget dialogue, forget character lore, forget anything else. The writing doesn't hold water in a bucket. Like
Yeah.
that's me describing like a dream to you. It's not even full sentences, and boom, we'll throw that on TV because yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
bad.
It's. I mean, that would be the thing. Is they would have to come out and say, well, honestly, I don't, at this point with anything Halo, I don't trust 343 for anything, but it would have to come out some way to convince me. I mean, they don't. The same writers and showrunners are not. I think. I know the showrunners have. I don't know if the. I think the writers have left too. They're going to be all different next year. So
Oh,
yeah,
good.
unless this show does some sort of crazy 180, and it, and yeah, like you said, we hear from the internet or Reddit or something that this is actually pretty good. Yeah, there's just no interest in it, right?
Right.
And I do want to say this again, as now we're nearing the end of the episode, is like, if you're still hanging on with us and you do like the show, we're not trying to take this from you. Enjoy the show. Good for you. You don't have to be cynical, hateful assholes like us.
We're already.
You don't have to
Yeah.
be part of the toxic fan base.
Yeah,
You
we're
know.
already mad at Halo Infinite, so we're kind of taking it out on the show, but I feel like it's
Well,
justified to take it out
see,
on the show.
that's I want to, since we are kind of talking the whole episode, and you did hit on it, Heather, is if the writing was just a little bit better, if the characters were a little bit more believable in kind of their role and what position and who they're playing, again, doesn't even have to be like again, it's hard for me as a 20, what are we at, 21 years of Halo, right, fan, to kind of pull myself away from the books and say this is a silver timeline. But like, I think if the writing was and the characters were just a little bit better, all this stuff that I've spent almost 9 episodes nitpicking, things like the CGI, things like these little inconsistencies, goofy little things, like it'd be easier to overlook. I think I've
Yeah.
compared this. I don't know if I've done it in one of our episodes live here, recording, but I know I've at least chatted with you guys before, is how like it's easy to look past all those things and not nitpick if the story and the characters pull you in. It's
Right.
it's it's how The Witcher season 1 and Witcher season 2 were for me. Is like season 1 I was like, well, the sets and the costumes and some of the CGI are meh. I hope it gets better, and it was a hit, and it got, you know, so much better in the second season. Right now we can argue about the story and characters in Witcher, but again, that's a separate topic. But it's one of those things where it could have been like, I could have overlooked all this kind of weird stuff if I was at least invested in the characters and story, but it wasn't there. So that's why I spent 9 episodes going, yeah, well, the plasma grenade didn't light up blue, so it wasn't deactivated, right? Or it wasn't activated, right? And then now I sound like an asshole because I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, if your main job is to tell a story and you
Yeah.
can't tell a coherent story, then like what more is there to say? Like now you're just like, okay, well, I know it's a bad story. I
Mhm.
know that the writing doesn't make sense. I know that things are going to be convenient. And I think that's my biggest problem with this show is that it's too convenient, it's too believable. It breaks my willing suspension of disbelief. Like I can let things go. Like you said, So what? The plasma grenade didn't glow the right color. It didn't glow, right? It
Yeah.
didn't even glow. But so what? Sure, I'll willing suspension disbelief of disbelief that. But you really want me to willing suspension of disbelief away like every flaw with every little bit of writing? Like
Yeah.
that takes literal effort on my part.
Yeah.
Like every second I have to be like, well, hand wavy, okay. And I feel like that's just poor
Silver
storytelling. And if
timeline.
your main job is to storytell and you can't do that, then it's not worth my time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think by and large the big problem with the show, and this is probably indicative by how a lot of other YouTube personalities and other people who are doing reviews of this series are like, thank God I don't have to watch this anymore, because largely the show isn't even fun to watch. Like,
Hmm.
even if the writing was kind of bad, even if the CG was kind of bad, the thing that we kind of were relying on to kind of carry the show was the action sequences, which were kind of fun. It was fun seeing those, seeing the kids at the very beginning of episode 1 get
Yeah.
ripped apart
Yeah.
by plasma. We did have a little bit morbid, but we did have fun with that. We did have fun when they were battling on Eridnus too, and they were, we got to see like a jackal get like split in half, and he's like crawling, trying to like, stay alive, but his intestines are hanging out or whatever. That whole battle sequence was really fun. The end, like, with the exception of the goofy nitpicks that we have and the really, really blatant writing problem, it was a battle scene. It was fun. If you just leaned on, how the Spartans are a bunch of kick-ass, space warriors that kill a lot of aliens, then we could have had fun, and that could have been a really easy win, I feel like.
Yeah.
But they tried so hard to lean on the drama side of it, and the writing was really, really bad. So it was really, really hard to have fun when the writing felt really forced and cringy at times, and the
Hmm.
dialogue felt off, and the things that the characters did, even if you take out the fact that this is a Halo series, doesn't make sense. Even for like characters in isolated in the Silver timeline, it doesn't make sense. Like, for example, like, regardless of what you think about Master Chief having a sex scene, the fact that this guy is supposed to be one of the best military assets in the entire UNSC, and he's sleeping with a very untrustworthy source that just got dropped out of the sky, literally from the Covenant.
Yeah.
Why
Well, I
would
mean, I
you do
was.
that? Like, that's just so like, even for Master Chief's character, aside from like, if you were to separate this completely from the games, the dude literally did commit like a war crime, and he just didn't, like, there was no consequence whatsoever, and there was nothing going on with that. Like, it ended up leading almost nowhere, other
Yeah.
than
It,
she took advantage of him.
well, and that's the piece that I'm talking about, right? Like that's all in the storytelling. Like they can't tell a coherent story that doesn't make sense. It's literally just blunder. Like just it's just a string of events that
Hmm.
are like you
Yeah.
said. There's no action in them, so it's just a chore to slog through them.
Right, and that's what I think what a lot of us, especially the Halo fans, were kind of hoping for, was to see a lot more action in this Halo TV series, because I mean it's rooted in an action video game, and a lot of the books have a lot of action in them. It's not like it's all just drama and just lots and lots of dialogue, right? It's
Hmm.
we got a little bit of action here and there, and it was fun when we did, but it really could have used a lot more of it, especially like, yeah, I could forgive bad writing if there was just tons and tons of action, and it really truly was a turn your brain off and just watch a bunch of aliens get killed on screen. Okay,
Yeah.
fine, whatever. If that's what Halo gets reduced down to, at least it's fun to watch. What we
Yeah.
saw was largely not fun to watch. Anytime Quan was on screen, I wanted to turn the TV off, because I'm like, I hate everything about this character. I don't want to watch this show because she's
Hmm.
in it.
In a way, again, this comes from the whole 20 years of Halo. Can't separate my brain from the established lore, but like Alpha Timeline or whatever they're calling it. But like, and you said it too. Chief was not Chief. He was not this, awesome, level-headed, think through everything and try to do the, right thing. And I'm in charge. I'm responsible. He was just this rage, emotional filled idiot, right? You know, it's he doesn't deserve the name Master Chief or
No,
John or whatever. He should be just Master
he's
Cheeks and
Jimmy Rings.
John and Jimmy Rings, you know. But and I would also counter. I was trying to figure out a good way to pull this in here, so hopefully this is a good kind of way to bring it in. Is I know, yeah, we could have easily been able to kind of consume this show if it was just a lot more mindless killing, and that could have been fun. But I also think, and weirdly enough, I think 343 could have made a good Halo story. I part of my little homework between the end episode and us recording, I watched through Forward Under Dawn, Nightfall, and the Fall of Reach, three different stories, two of which were original. Nightfall wasn't the greatest, but it had a Halo feel about it, and it had a lot of good sets and characters and things set in the world that were interesting. Again, it was a little goofy. Uh, I'd recommend maybe go watching it. But what I thought was really good was Forward Unto Dawn. I have either of you guys ever seen
I
that?
have. Yep,
Yeah,
I did watch that.
I was watching through that, and there's action at the end of it, but it's a typical like 90-minute movie, right? Where it's not they're not blown up aliens, but they establish uh, these characters in the world that was already there without ever having until the end to really do anything. It was actually really cool how they brought in the Spartans, because this was early on in the war, and the way they introduced the Covenant and the Spartans was just really cool in that movie, because being early on, the Spartans were still kind of secretive, and there was only rumblings of something weird happening in the outer territories. We didn't know it was the Covenant, and the way they just kind of brought them into there, I'm sitting there watching and going like, wow, this is like, what if we could have got like this kind of level of writing and storytelling again? Just though with that, I mean, more shoot 'ems ups and stuff is really cool, but they didn't tell this 90-minute story where they're just blowing aliens' heads off. But they were still able to write and tell a story within that universe with characters that weren't Master Chief or Spartans, and really make it fun and feel like Halo or the Halo universe.
Agreed.
Which, by the way, anybody that's still sticking around, go watch Forward Unto Dawn. It's a lot of fun, and you do get some pretty badass moments with the Chief at the end. So,
Is the Fall
uh,
of Reach good?
Fall of Reach, which, see, this I thought was really, really kind of cool. They took some of their liberties of changing things, which again, whatever, who cares? I can hand wave those away, But it's basically kind of a telling of uh the kids being abducted, kidnapped and turned into soldiers, and it's for anybody that doesn't want to go read a book and wants to, I think it's like 90 minutes maybe itself. It's something like that, a little over an hour, 90 minutes or something like that. But it's just kind of a telling of like, this is the Spartan program, this is kind of what they go through. Here's John, here's Kelly, Linda. Yeah, you get to see what unfortunately happens to Sam, right? The first big mission once the Spartans get their Mjolnir armor, they were whatever, they went to a facility to get this armor, and there was a Covenant ship there, and they go in there, and it really kind of, uh one of them gets hit, and they can't, and their suits are whatever vacuum sealed, but when this Sam Spartan got hit, he couldn't leave. So it was just a really cool story where you learn about a lot of the characters, and you learn about the Spartan program and kind of like everything before the Halo games. So, I'd recommend, yeah, Fall of Reach and Forward Unto Dawn. If you're able to, I don't know if they're on any streaming services, but you could probably skip Nightfall. But I'd say Nightfall was at least better than the TV show,
Mm-hmm.
right? But yeah, I mean, bringing it back around, my point is like, you can still write good stuff that doesn't have to be the shoot 'em up aliens in the Halo universe and an established lore without it being about Master Chief, right? You can really tell some cool stories, and instead we get this silver timeline where it's like every excuse of why it's different is, well, it's a different timeline. It's a different
Yeah,
timeline.
I know. I've always hated that. That was such a. We thought that was gonna be a big red flag, and it definitely was.
Yep.
Because it was just they could take whatever creative liberties they wanted. They just basically got a blank slate and called it Halo.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts before we end the series?
Two last little things. They'll be short. I'm a broken record this one. Lack of real Halo music and sound effects really hurt the show. And two, as far as we know, it was an off-camera, potentially death scene, but if we do come around and we do watch next season, there is a chance that our boy Chevy Tahoe might be there
Oh
because
man.
there was that big explosion, but we didn't see him go, so he could still be there.
He could still be
He
there.
could, and we still got Pointy Elite too, so he's cool.
All right.
We never did get the Arbiter.
Nope.
I
No, we
don't know
did
if
not.
it was I don't know if it was real or just Reddit just being Reddit. I never confirmed this, but somebody was saying that big brute boss at the end was Atriox. So
Yeah, I
I
remember
don't
seeing somebody say something about that. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know if
They
that's
did
real or
say
not.
his name. It scans him and it says his name when he scans him. I just don't remember the name.
I thought it just said like Jurohani Target or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Now I have to go. Well, I don't know if I have to go look.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is going to conclude our series on Campfire Gaming Podcast Reviews Halo, the TV series. Thank you all for joining. If you were sticking around for all 9 episodes of this wonderful, fantastic display of television and our ramblings and rantings about it, we really, really appreciate it. If you liked what you were listening to, be sure to check out our mainline podcast. It's campfiregamingpodcast.com. You can listen. We have a whole giant, several, 100 and some odd episodes that you can listen to. You can follow us on Twitter at CampGamePod. Be sure to join us on Discord. We love to talk video games. We like to play games with each other, and you can get, direct, up-to-date info on what we're doing and episodes that we're dropping and things like that. And I think that's it. I think that about wraps up all of the Halo stuff.
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us, Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was fun, despite
Yeah.
all of the crap we gave it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. All right. Well, be sure to, like I said, be sure to join us on our mainline. We'll have you on a mainline episode sometime here soon, Heather, I think.
Nice.
Nice.
We'll force you. It'll be
Yeah.
all about talking Halo Infinite.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking more Halo or something. No, we'll probably talk
Joke's
about.
on you. I can't play Infinite.
We got lots of Apex to talk about.
Sure.
Yeah, there we go. All right. I mean, I would say see you next time around the campfire, but this is the end of this particular series. So see you next time around the other campfire.